We are going to be talking about some geometry today, specifically lines, segments, points, and rays. And by the end of this video, you're going to be not only able to draw them, but you're going to be able to compare and contrast them, tell me what they have in common, and things that are different about them. So we're going to start off by talking about lines. So let me pull up a line here. And we can define a line as a straight path of points that goes on and on in either direction. So in order to understand what that means, we kind of need to know what a point is. A point is a specific, exact location in space. A lot of times we'll see points, they look almost like dots. Think about the point of your pencil. If you put the point of your pencil on paper, you'd get a little dot. That's called a point. Well, so how do points relate to lines? Well, lines are made up of points, an infinite number of them. So that means that on my line, I could put a point, and points can have names. I could label this point A if I wanted, and I could even put more points because we know lines are it's a straight line of points. I could put another point and label that point B. Now, since it did say infinite, I could put as many points as I wanted on this line because this line goes on and on forever in both directions. That's an important thing to know about the line, is it's that straight line of points that goes on and on in both directions. Lines are made up of points. So then we have rays and segments. Now, both a ray and a segment are parts of a line. It's not a whole line, but they are a part of a line. So we're going to start with rays. An array is, like I said, part of a line, being that it has one endpoint and it continues on and on forever in one direction. Lines continue on and on forever in two directions. Rays only continue on and on forever in one, because rays have one endpoint where it does not continue forever. Well, what about a segment? A segment is, again, part of a line, but a segment has two endpoints. It has a beginning point and an ending point. It does not continue on and on forever on either side of the segment. So it's a part of a line, but it has a start and end point. It does not continue on and on forever. So line is a straight path of points that goes on and on forever in two directions. Rays are part of a line, but they have an endpoint and only continue on and on in one direction. Segments are part of a line that have a start and end point and don't continue on in either direction. So I'm going to show you a picture now, and we're going to see if we can identify some points, segments, rays, and lines in this picture. So here you see I have four different lines. I know they're lines because I see a straight path of points and they're going on and on in two directions. I have a line right here. This line would be called line AB. I'm going to name my line using my points. It goes on and on this way and on the other way. I also have line CD. It goes on and on in two directions, and it is a straight path of points. I have line AC, on and on in two directions, and line BD, because it goes on and on in two directions. I found 4 points: point A, point B, point C, and point D. Are there more points on line AC than what I have shown you? Hopefully you said yes, because we just learned that a line is a straight, and it is a straight line of points. An infinite number of points. I could put as many points as I wanted on this line because it's going to continue on and on forever. So we found some lines, we found some points. Now we're going to look for a few rays and for a few segments. Remember, rays and segments are parts of a line. So if I have a line, I can find a segment or a ray within that line. I'm going to look for a segment first, something with a start and an end point. Well, I see one right here. Here could be a start point for me, A, and an end point for me could be C. Now I'm going to name my segment the same way I do a line, except instead of calling it line AC, which would indicate that I'm going on and on in both directions, I'm going to call it segment AC, which means I'm stopping and stopping. I have a start point and an end point. Do you see any other segments in this drawing? So we're looking for something with a start point and an end point that is part of a line. We'll look at line CD. The line goes on in both directions. A segment would be part of that line that has a start and end point. Well, right here I see a start point, and at D I see an end point. I have segment CD. You could have also found segment BD, start and end point, or segment AB, start and end point. So the last thing we're going to look for are rays, and we know that rays are also part of lines. They only have one endpoint, and they continue on in one direction forever. So if I look at line AC, it goes on in both directions. I'm looking for the ray that is part of that line. Well, I could use A as my endpoint, and if I keep going through point C, this goes on forever. I could say ray AC has an endpoint, goes on in one direction. Do you see any other do you see any other rays in this drawing? Looking for something with one endpoint, but then goes on forever in the other direction. It will be part of a line. So another one that I see, I can use point A again as my endpoint. And if I look down through point B, this goes on forever. I could say that ray AB also exists. So notice how when you're naming them, it's important to say whether it's a ray, a segment, or a line, because I could say line AC, which would indicate on in two directions. I could say ray AC, which would indicate a start point and continuing in one direction. Or I could say segment AC, which would indicate starting at A and ending at C. So it's really important when you're naming these geometric terms of lines, segments, rays, or points that you're specific with what you're naming, so that I know whether it's a ray, a segment, or a line, because they are very different. So hopefully you understand a little bit about how to find those things and what they are, and I'll see you next time.